Hello friends and viewers, and welcome to my Acambe character guide. Acambe's trait is National Merchant. This grants him a passive attack increase. It raises his maximum energy pool to 9 energy up from the standard 5. For every 3 energy owned, Acambe will additionally gain 1 energy at the end of his turn. When Shadow Assassins are present in battle, Acambe gains access to Secret Signal. Acambe's damage dealt by Secret Signal increases depending on star level. At star level 5, Acambe begins battle with an additional 3 energy. His initial skill is Shadow Assassin. This is a 2 energy cost instant skill with no cooldown that can be cast 2 times per round. Shadow Assassins inherit 85% of Acambe's attack and 20% of his defense and HP. However, anytime a Shadow Assassin is defeated, the cooldown of this skill increases by 1 turn. Let's review the Shadow Assassin summon. First, their trait, Shadow. Assisting cover cannot trigger for Shadow Assassins. When there are no allies within 1 tile of Shadow Assassins, they cannot be targeted by skills but can be passed through. When Shadow Assassins attack the same target repeatedly in a turn, subsequent damage is decreased by 50%. Again, if Shadow Assassin is defeated, then Acambe's Shadow Assassin summoning skill cooldown is increased by 1 turn. Shadow Assassins leave the battlefield after 2 turns. Shadow Assassins cannot basic attack. They have a reaction skill called Additional Investment. Shadow Assassins will perform assisting attack against all enemies within 5 tiles around them, dealing 35% magical damage and inflicting 1 random level 2 debuff. This can be activated up to 2 times per round. Shadow Assassin's energy spender is Vorpal Blade. This deals 100% AoE damage to all enemies within 2 tiles around them and inflicts the healing received debuff on enemies for 2 turns. Shadow Assassins only have 1 energy, and ordinarily, Vorpal Blade is manually cast by Acambe. If Shadow Assassins have a buff that reduces energy cost, such as Happiness, then they will self-cast Vorpal Blade as well. At rank 1, your options are Potential Burst or Energy Ray. Potential Burst is a support skill that grants an attack 2 and defense 2 buffs. This will also dispel all attribute debuffs and grant them attribute debuff immunity. This may be helpful to quickly apply level 2 buffs for an ally or to counter any enemies or mutations where attribute debuffs are egregious. Energy Ray is a 0 energy cost, 3 turn cooldown, single target skill. It deals 140% damage and will deal more damage against enemies with a shield. Because of its 0 energy cost, this will substitute a basic attack whenever it is off cooldown. If you want to open up the possibility to build Acambe as a single target damage dealer, consider Energy Ray. Long term, neither skill is likely to be part of Acambe's regular skill loadout. If you cannot decide, consider selecting based on the HP or defense stat gain. My pick here is Potential Burst. At rank 3, I recommend Squander. With Squander, you can choose between Greed Leads to Ruin, an instant skill, or Rich Rewards, a non-instant support skill. Greed Leads to Ruin is a great displacement skill to group up both Acambe's Shadow Assassins and enemies closer together for more efficient AoE damage. Additionally, all enemies affected receive movement, magical defense 2, and assist debuffs. Rich Rewards restores 1 energy to all allies within 3 tiles around Acambe, decreases their active skill cooldowns by 1 turn, and grants them attack and defense 2 buffs. Summon units gain attack 4. This is a great skill not only for energy recovery and cooldown reduction, but to also quickly apply party-wide buffs. Hypnosis is a single target attack, dealing minor damage and inflicting sleep for 2 turns. Crowd control is always a helpful tool, but Squander offers more group utility and long-term impact. At rank 5, I recommend Special Clauses. With Special Clauses, when Acambe is attacked, if a summon unit is within 3 tiles of him, the summon unit will take the attack instead. This applies to any type of summon unit, such as Safia's HM Agent or Inanna's Guard, and is not strictly isolated to Acambe's Shadow Assassins. This can trigger up to 2 times per round. Rage decreases active damage taken by 8%. Acambe will gain a damage 2 buff for 3 turns after being attacked, increasing his individual output. Long term, in scenarios where it may not be ideal to trigger Special Clauses, it is reasonable to substitute Acambe's reaction skill for Rage. At rank 7, I recommend Burning Riches with a Castalia for rewards and punishments. Burning Riches is Acambe's signature ability, dealing 90% magical AoE damage in a 5x3 area, knocks back enemies by 2 tiles and summons up to 3 Shadow Assassins in a 3x1 area at the front. After attacking, Acambe is blocked from restoring energy for 2 turns, but this debuff can be immunized with the Fancy Hat Trinket. Rewards and Punishments is a Disciplined Leader's Aura, reducing skills with a cooldown of 4 or more turns by 1 turn, and increases the damage dealt by allied summon units by 20%. For Acambe, the cooldown reduction impacts his skills Burning Riches and Hypnosis. At rank 9, your options are Disarm Strike or Charged Attack. Disarm Strike adds an attack 1 debuff to Acambe's basic attack. This helps to minimize group damage taken, but is made redundant if you have other units applying higher level attack debuffs. Charged Attack increases the damage of Acambe's next skill by 15%, increasing his individual output. Both options are relatively low impact. If you cannot decide, consider your selection based on the HP or defense stat increase. My pick here is Charged Attack. At rank 11, your options are Dark Ripple or Darkest Annihilation. Long term, neither option will be a regular part of Acambe's skill loadout. Dark Ripple deals 70% AoE magical damage and blocks passive and reaction skills to all targets hit. This is a fine skill to debuff enemies, but keep in mind it is ineffective when enemies have disrupt immunity. Darkest Annihilation is a single target attack with a high 180% damage modifier coupled with an armor piercing buff. Consider this if you want to open the possibility of playing Acambe as a single target damage dealer. My pick here is Darkest Annihilation. This is my general build recommendation. This build focuses on supportive play by regularly summoning Shadow Assassins for their assisting attacks and Vorpal Blade. If you have Acambe with Fancy Hat, use Burning Riches. If not, consider Squander instead. This build focuses on playing Acambe as a traditional single target damage dealer. Use Darkest Annihilation as Acambe's core energy spender, Energy Ray when he has insufficient energy, and Charge Attack when neither are available to use. For weapon recommendations, because Acambe's Shadow Assassins inherit a percentage of his attributes, consider weapons that increase Acambe's HP and attack. Starry Sky Heritage is the best option, though Diffusing Prism can be considered for the magical attack increase. Consider Focus Wand if you are playing Acambe as a single target damage dealer. Not pictured here, if you are a spender, then because Acambe has a greater energy pool, Cornucopia Staff is a great option to upkeep his energy regeneration. For trinket recommendations, when using Burning Riches, equip Fancy Hat to immunize against the energy restored debuff. Flying Blade Armguard is a reasonable option as an instant trigger for Shadow Assassins assisting attacks. Recall that Shadow Assassins can perform assisting attacks up to 2 times per round. As Acambe's Shadow Assassins inherit a percentage of his attributes, consider trinkets that offer passive stat increases such as Origin Hourglass and Shield of Justice. For Taros, Course of Fortune is a versatile and hybrid option for damage, healing, mitigation, and energy recovery. Particularly, the energy recovery is welcome for Acambe's frequent energy costs. On any maps with high target count, allies, enemies, summons, and NPCs, it is always reasonable to consider Temptation of the Devil. Acambe's Shadow Assassins will also inherit Devil's attack and defense increases. Acambe's Shadow Assassins will also contribute to Devil stacks when they die, but not despawning, though you should ordinarily try to avoid those scenarios. For Engravings, Cup and Wand supports Acambe with energy conservation, and the cooldown reset can benefit several of his skills. That said, do your best to prioritize Engraving Resonance on the highest energy cost and/or longest cooldown skills such as Burning Riches. To provide some composition and usage tips, if Shadow Assassins die rather than despawn, remember that the cooldown of Acambe's Shadow Assassin skill will increase. Part of mastering Acambe is both keeping the Shadow Assassins alive and maintaining their uptime. However, it may sometimes be strategic to use Shadow Assassins to manipulate enemy AI if it means keeping another team member alive. Recall that Shadow Assassin have an energy pool of 1, but Vorpal Blade costs 2 energy. While Shadow Assassins will regularly cast Vorpal Blade through Acambe's Secret Signal, if the Shadow Assassins have a buff that reduces their skill's energy costs, such as Coco's Happiness, the Shadow Assassins will be able to self-cast Vorpal Blade. Acambe is a member of the Drifter and Discipline categories. consider building a team with him using his own discipline aura and/or Miguel's leader's aura. For a quick overview of external category buffs, Miguel's World Drifter aura gives 5% more attack and 10% more defense than typical leaders' auras. That concludes this character guide. If you have any feedback to share with me, please leave a comment below. I'm open to listening and being wrong. I'm another player improving and learning more about Sword of Convallaria just like you are. Remember, if you find conflicting information to other guides or content creators, then that means there are multiple ways to build a character and still achieve success. Finally, my social media contacts are displayed here to connect with me as well. Last but not least, I want to credit and shout out these resources for helping me put together this character guide. Voyage Memento for character build samples and reference links, the No Potion fan site for skill images and skill descriptions, and the Billy Game site for character art assets. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.